Okay, friends, so in case you added the trend line to your scatter plot and saw this terrifying number right here as the slope, I wanted to make some peace with that with you. So here's, let's make peace with it. I'm going to ignore the 5.71 for now because I want to focus just on this part. There is a multiplication here. I'm not sure if Sheets actually has that multiplication indicate. It doesn't. It's just got them right next to each other. But that's implied multiplication. Just like when you're writing equations and you say 3x, it means 3 times x, 3 x's. There's a multiplication sign there. So I'm going to ignore the 5.71 for a second and focus just on the negative 0.03. This is a holdover language from back in the maybe 70s, 60s, 80s, some 50, 60 years ago, whatever. When you see a capital E in a mathematical context like this, it stands for the idea of an exponent. That's why the E is there. But more specifically, and this is the part I have to apologize for, it's not intuitive, it stands for 10 with an exponent of this number. So this one is actually 10 to the negative third power. The 0 is just computer language. It puts it there as a placeholder. Why? I don't know. It just does. So this really means, when you see this, it means 5.71 times 10 to the negative third power. Now we'll deal with this in a second. I want to deal with this 10 to the negative third first. I'll put that over here. Well, in order to make sense of what 10 to the negative third is, let's make sense of what 10 to the third power is first. And let's work down to 10 to the negative third. What is 10 to the third power? 10 times 10 times 10. It's using 10 as a factor 3 times by definition. So that's 10 times, that's 1,000. That's 1,000. Okay, good so far. Okay. Let's continue this pattern, but move this closer to this. How about 10 squared? So what I did was I dropped it by 1. Excuse me. So 10 squared is 100. 10 times 10. How about 10 to the first? I may have to move this one down. That's just 10. Now I want you to look at these 3 patterns, and if it helps, you can actually put 10 to the fourth up here, but my plant is in the way and I won't be able to see it. You see how the exponents are dropping by 1 each time? 10 to the third, 10 to the second, 10 to the first. The next one would be, if you go in order, would be 10 to the 0 power. Which some of you are going to think to yourself, that doesn't make any sense, because you can't kind of do this the way we did these 3. The number here indicates how many factors of 10 we have. 3 factors of 10, 2 factors of 10, 1 factor of 10, no factors of 10. And that's a good observation if you're thinking that. But I want you to think beyond that. What makes this somewhat challenging is the same reason why explaining why a negative number times a negative number is a positive number is challenging. Because you can't view it in the concrete realm of picking up apples and counting things. But that doesn't mean it can't be understood. Check this out. These are going down by 1 each time. What's happening between here and here and here and here? Now there is a commonality happening. How do you get from 100 to 10? And I want you to think of it via the idea of multiplication, or in this case, division. How do you get from 1,000 to 100? You get from 1,000 to 100 by dividing by 10. And you get from 100 to 10 by dividing by 10. So you see, you actually do have a commonality. And it makes sense because it's related to these exponents. Exponents are related to multiplication. Division is also related to multiplication. You can actually view dividing by 10 as multiplying by a tenth. Same idea. Keeping it going now. If we drop from 1 to 0, divide 10 by 10 and you get 1. Now some of you might be looking at this and going, that makes no sense. Well, I'm going to offer you to open up Google and type 10 to the 0 power and press enter and see what you get. As a matter of fact, you can raise any number to the 0th power and it will always get 1. But the thing about it is this can continue. Numerically, 3 minus 1 is 2, minus 1 is 1, minus 1 is 0, minus 1 is negative 1. And the pattern can continue. This divide by 10 is 0.1. 10 to the negative 2, would there be that divided by 10 is 0.01. A little trim here for the plant. And therefore 10 to the negative third would be 0.001. If you want to think like a European, it's true this. If you want to think like a European, all you're doing is moving the decimal place. Move it over 1, 100. Move it over 1, 10. Move it over 1, 1. Move it over 1, 0.1, 0.01, 0.001. So why do I go through all of this? To explain that this is just 5.71 times 0.001. What is the effect of multiplying 5.71 by 0.001? Well, that's the best part. Move this decimal 3 places to the left. 1, 2, 3, you end up with 0.00571. And as I mentioned in the homework, that is a positive number, but a very small positive number. So that crazy little thing you saw right there, the e to the negative 3 indicates it's going to be small, and the fact that the number out front was positive 5 means it's a very small positive number. So it's just a little bit bigger than 0 on a number line. Cool. Hope that helped.